There is a frequency, not a metaphor, not a spiritual concept, not something you have to believe in. A measurable, documented, reproducible state of human consciousness that Carl Jung spent 50 years studying. And what he found was so precise, so repeatable, so undeniable that he stopped calling it psychology and started calling it physics. When a human being accesses this frequency, not thinks about it, not visualizes it, not wishes for it, but truly, completely, irreversibly accesses it, reality reorganizes itself. Not sometimes, not for special people, not under perfect conditions, every time, without exception, as reliably as gravity. In the next 7 minutes, I'm going to show you exactly what this frequency is, how Jung proved it exists, and the precise method the ancient Hermetic initiates used to access it. A method so effective it was considered too dangerous to share with anyone who was not ready to receive it. You are watching this video, which means you are ready. Stay until the end. The last 2 minutes contain the activation itself. Most people spend their entire lives trying to change their reality from the outside. They change their job, they change their city, they change their relationships, they change their diet, their morning routine, their social circle, and somehow the same patterns return. Different face, different place, same feeling. Jung documented this phenomenon in hundreds of case studies across 5 decades of clinical work, and he identified the mechanism with a precision that modern neuroscience is still struggling to fully explain. He said, "The external world is not creating your internal state. Your internal state is creating your external world, not influencing it, not partially shaping it, creating it, with the same reliability that a projector creates the image on the screen. Change the film, and the image has no choice but to change." Subscribe to Hermetic Mind right now and comment below which pattern keeps returning in your life no matter how many times you try to change it, because that pattern is the clearest map you have to exactly which frequency you are currently locked into. Now here is what nobody tells you about Jung's discovery. He did not just document the problem, he found the frequency, the specific, learnable, accessible state of human consciousness where the unconscious mind stops working against you and starts working as you. He called it individuation, the process by which a human being integrates every fragmented part of themselves, the shadow, the persona, the anima, the self, into a single, unified field of consciousness. And here is the part that connects Jung's psychology directly to the ancient Hermetic teachings that preceded him by 5,000 years. When a human being achieves individuation, even partially, their internal signal changes. Not their behavior, not their words, not their intentions, their signal. The invisible frequency they broadcast to the collective field of consciousness that the Hermeticists call the all, and that modern quantum physics calls the zero-point field. And when that signal changes, the field responds. Stay with me, because this is where most people stop, and this is precisely where the real work begins. The Hermetic principle of mentalism states, the all is mind, the universe is mental. This is not philosophy, this is not religion. This is the operating principle of the most sophisticated understanding of reality that human civilization has ever produced. The ancient initiates of Egypt understood 3,000 years before the first neuron was ever identified under a microscope that consciousness is not produced by the brain. The brain is a receiver. Consciousness is the signal. And the universe, the entire structure of physical reality, is made of the same substance as consciousness, which means when you change your consciousness, you change your reality, not by attracting different circumstances from a fixed external world, but by literally altering the frequency of the field from which your circumstances emerge. This is what Jung proved. This is what the Hermetic initiates practiced, and this is the mechanism behind every transformation that has ever seemed miraculous to the people who witnessed it, but perfectly logical to the person who understood the frequency. Hit the like button right now if you have ever experienced a moment where everything changed, not because of anything you did, but because of something that shifted inside you. Because that moment, that inexplicable turning point,
was not luck, it was frequency alignment, and it can be reproduced deliberately, on demand. Now, I am going to give you exactly what the mystery schools protected for millennia, the 4-stage frequency activation that the Hermetic initiates called the Great Work. Not a meditation, not an affirmation, not a visualization, a precise psychological technology for shifting the fundamental frequency of your consciousness permanently. Stage 1, recognition. You cannot shift a frequency you cannot identify. The first stage requires one thing only: honest observation of your current signal. Not judgment, not shame, not the desperate desire to change. Observation. Sit with the question, what do I actually believe? Not think, not say, not perform, but actually believe in the deepest and most honest part of myself about whether I deserve abundance. The answer that makes you uncomfortable is the one that's true. That discomfort is the location of your frequency lock, and naming it clearly, precisely, without flinching is the first act of the great work. Stage 2, confrontation. Jung was explicit about this. There is no frequency shift without shadow integration. The shadow, the sum of everything you have refused to see about yourself, is not a wound to heal. It's a battery. Every quality you buried because you were told it was wrong, every ambition you suppressed because wanting was dangerous, every version of yourself you abandoned to make someone else comfortable, all of that energy is still inside you, compressed, waiting, generating the counter-frequency that has been blocking your signal for years. Confrontation is the act of turning toward the shadow instead of away from it, not to destroy it, to reclaim it. Because the moment you reclaim what you buried, the counter-frequency collapses, and the signal that remains is the clearest, strongest, most aligned version of your true frequency you have ever broadcast. Stage 3, embodiment. This is the stage that separates people who understand the frequency from people who actually access it. Understanding is intellectual, embodiment is physical. The frequency must be felt in the body, in the nervous system, in the breath, in the posture, in the way you occupy space before the field can respond to it. The ancient initiates spent years learning to embody specific states of consciousness. You do not have years, but you have this. Every morning, before you speak to anyone, before you check your phone, before the world begins to tell you who it thinks you are, spend 3 minutes feeling, not thinking, not visualizing, feeling what it is to be the version of yourself for whom abundance is not a goal, for whom abundance is simply the natural expression of what you already are. 3 minutes every morning before the world gets in. That feeling, held consistently, built deliberately, deepened daily, is the frequency activation. Stage 4, release. And this is the most counterintuitive stage, the one that undoes all the work of everyone who almost got there. After recognition, after confrontation, after embodiment, you must release the outcome entirely. Not because you don't want it, because desperation is a counter-frequency. The moment your manifestation becomes something you need to survive, something your sense of safety, your worth, your identity depends upon, you have reactivated the lack signal. Release is the act of trusting that a consciousness operating at the correct frequency does not need to pull abundance toward it. Abundance moves toward aligned consciousness the way water moves to the sea, not because of effort, because of nature. This is what Jung proved, this is what Hermes encoded, and this is what every initiated mind in the history of human civilization understood, and what most people will spend their entire lives trying to find in the wrong direction. 4 stages, 1 frequency, 0 exceptions. Recognition, confrontation, embodiment, release. This is the great work, and it begins not tomorrow, not when you're ready, not when conditions are perfect, but in the 3 minutes after this video ends. The universe does not negotiate with frequency, it simply responds to it, always, precisely, without mercy and without favoritism. Change the frequency, and reality, exactly as Jung proved, will have no choice but to change with it. Subscribe to Hermetic Mind. Leave a comment below with one word, which